Hello everyone. So once you have downloaded this spawner, now I'll show you how you can use the spawner and what are all the features of the spawner that you can use and what are the limitations and what are the requirements that this spawner needs to work correctly. Okay, so let's get started. Firstly, once you have downloaded this, you will find a folder named combat spawner. Open it up. Then there will be a demo map, which is exactly this map that you are seeing here right now. I'll open it again, and as you can see, it is this map. Okay, so I'll press P so you can see the nav mesh. Okay, so that's the first folder. Second folder is example enemy types. These are nothing but actors, blueprint class actors, which have only a mesh. Okay, they only have a mesh with different colors denoting different types of enemies that you will have, that you want to spawn in your game. All right, these I have created just for the demonstration purposes so I can explain you the system easily. Then there is spawner blueprints. This uh, combat enemy spawner. Okay, this actor, this blueprint class is the main thing. Okay, this is the spawner. This is spawner communicator. You don't need to worry about that. This is basically a communicator which will be uh, basically it is a actor component which will act as a communicator between the spawner and the spawned enemy. All right, so you don't need to manually add this inside the enemy. It will automatically get added and it will communicate with your spawner. All right, then you have spawner enumerations. This is basically different types of spawning that we have right here. Okay, right in this code, this is the code. So different types of enemies, different types of spawning that we have right here. Okay, that is the thing. Then we have spawner structs. This is basically structures that I'm using in some particular types of spawning for this system. All right, so let's get started. So now that you know all the systems that we have here, I'll show you how you can start implementing it. Firstly, get your spawner blueprint, get inside your spawner blueprints, then combat enemy spawner. This is your main actor. Drag it in your level wherever you want. Focus on it by pressing F. Now, once you have this selected, you will see, if you can't see this, you need to drag it down a little. All right, so you will see there are a few things inside this. So firstly, this box collision. Okay, drag it out a little bit, bring it up, increase its size. Okay, so this is basically the collision which will trigger your spawning. Okay, so once your player has collided with this, it will do the spawning. All right, so you need to place it wherever you want in your game, and this only works once. Okay, so I have been careful about it that once you go through it, and if you go again, it won't work. Okay, we don't want that. So that way it's really easy. You can place this in exactly in between your boss fight level as well, so you don't need to worry about boss getting spawned multiple times. All right, so this only works once. Then you have your spawn point. Spawn point is basically the point where your spawning will happen. You don't need to worry that all your enemies will spawn exactly at this point. There is a certain radius in which the spawning will happen, but this spawn point is actually responsible for one particular type of spawning, and that is boss spawning. So if you are spawning a boss enemy, it will spawn exactly at this point. Okay, so for that reason you need to be careful. Otherwise, if you're using it for some other purposes, it can you don't need to worry where you're placing this. Okay, so second thing you need to be aware about is that this system needs an nav mesh. So grab a nav mesh bounds volume, place it, and then increase its size however big you want. All right, this will be like approximately the range where your spawning will happen. All right, so yeah, so this nav mesh will help in getting the spawn locations for my spawner. Okay, so once you have done this, you are uh, done with the placements. All right, so now you are ready to go inside, deep inside the system, and do all the things, all the settings and all. So right now I'll delete this little things that I've added in because I've already placed it here to show you, demonstrate. So this collide to spawn and this white cube is not part of the spawner. This I have placed just for the demonstration. Okay, now let's get to the spawner. Okay, so inside the spawner, firstly you will find the default. Hold on a second. Yeah, firstly you will find the default. Default is basically a spawn effect where you can add in your Niagara effect or any other VFX that you have. Okay, and this will play the effect where your AI agents are being spawned. Okay, or whatever that you want to spawn. Where before spawning, if you want a little bit of VFX, you can add the VFX here and it will play. Moving on, spawn types. So now we have different spawn types. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different types of spawn types. First, I'll explain you all of them briefly. Then we will go inside the details. So, first one, boss spawn. Boss spawn is basically when you want to spawn the boss. Okay, so here your boss will spawn, and this also have the support of minions. So let's say you want to spawn a boss and you want some minions around him. Okay, so even that can be done. Second is one-time spawner. One-time spawner is basically a set of AIs or set of actors that you want to spawn all at once. Okay, and no longer, like once it is spawned, done. The system will stop and you can fight them and move on when the last one is dead. So something like that. Wave spawner. Wave spawner is basically a wave system. Okay, so you have wave system in your game, in games where you fight waves of enemies. So that is that. Sequential spawner. Sequential spawner is basically where you fight one AI after the other. Okay, where you spawn one actor after the other. So the perfect example would be how some fighting games have different types of enemies. So in their tutorial levels, they have a system where you fight all different types of enemies, but as soon as you kill one type of enemy, the other one spawns. So this is something similar to that. Timer loop spawn. Okay, so this is basically for a set number, set time. Let's say for 1 minute. Okay, you want the fight to be happening for 1 minute. So for 1 minute, agents will keep on spawning with a regular interval. So let's say the time you have set is 1 minute and the regular interval you want is 1 second. So for 1 minute, every 1 second, an AI will be spawned. Okay, then the last one is the battle spawner. Battle spawner is basically a spawner where you select all the different types of enemies that you want to spawn, and inside them you select how many of each individual type you want. So let's say you want to spawn 5 zombies, 3 rusher enemies, 1 heavy enemy, 2 like some shooting enemies. Okay, so you can add all of them, and then the spawner will select randomly one of them and spawn, and will have delay connected to that particular area as well. It is a little bit uh, intelligent and flexible, and you have a lot of options to create different type of spawning. Okay, so now one thing to notice is all these can work at the same time. So let's say it is not a toggle. So let's say you want the boss enemy and the wave spawn and the timer loop spawn to work in tandem. Okay, work together. They will work together. Okay, you just need to check them and have the settings. If you want all of these to work all at same time, they will. If you just don't want this or don't want this, it will work as well. If you only want this one and this one, it will work as well. So it is really flexible to create various types of spawning with this system. All right, so for now we will go in detail with each and every system. First system, boss spawn. So scroll down, you will find boss spawner. All right, so in the boss spawner you have boss class to spawn. Right now, oh, I have some values, I'll just remove them. All right, yeah, so boss class to spawn is basically uh, where you spawn your boss. Okay, so here you can feed in your boss, whichever boss you want to spawn, you can feed it here and it will spawn. All you need to do is walk inside this. So I'll show you that. I'll just drag this and you need to check this. Okay, be careful that you have this selected. If you don't have this selected, all these settings won't work. So I'll press play, I walk through it, and yeah, I have my boss spawned. Okay, so that's how it is. All right, so that is how you spawn the boss, only the boss. Now why did my boss did not fell down? Well, because it is just a mesh for demonstration. Your characters will have gravity and physics and everything attached to them, so they will fall. So yeah, you have the boss spawned. Second, to spawn minions. Now what does this mean? So for each and every variable and all the settings that you have, I have created comments that will tell you everything if you wish to not see this video totally. So you can just hover over it and it will explain you everything about that variable. So about that option, let's go to the next option, that is to spawn minions, which means do you want to spawn the minions? So in some games you have that boss and a few minions around it. So do you want that? If you want, you can check it. Okay, now max minions and minimum minions, what does this mean? Max minions is the maximum number of minions you want to spawn around the boss. Okay, minimum minions is the minimum number of minions that you want to spawn around the minimum number of enemies that you want spawned alive. Okay, so let's say you have spawned 5 enemies. Okay, so max minions is 5 and minimum minions is 3. Okay, so firstly it will spawn all the max minions, which is 5 right here. Then you kill a few enemies and now the number is 3, so it won't do anything. But as soon as you kill one more and the number goes down from 3, it will trigger this spawner. Okay, and the spawner will again keep on spawning until it has reached the max minions. Okay, so it will spawn all the minions again until the total of number of enemies is equal to max minions. Okay, so it won't spawn all these minions again. Okay, it will only spawn till the max minions are met. Okay, current minions, these are the current minions that are alive in your fight. Okay, so this does not need to be public. You don't need to feed in any number here. The only reason I have created this public is so that you can call this from any other script if you want. Okay, just for your referencing if you want to access this system. Okay, then types of minions to spawn. These are basically the different types of minions that you want to spawn. You can add in multiple type of minions here. All right. So, and it will get random minions. Okay. Is boss alive? Is boss alive is basically um uh, basically, how do I tell you? Like, is the boss alive? So if the boss is alive, then this calculations of current minions and uh, max minions, minimum minions, this will happen. If the boss is not alive, if the boss is dead, then this system will stop and you have to fight the rest of remaining alive minions. Okay. Now spawn radius. This spawn radius is in each and every one of them, one of the systems. All right. Now the spawn radius is basically the radius around this spawner. Okay. So your spawning, your AI and actors and everything that you want to spawn will be spawned within this radius. Okay. And within this radius, you need that nav mesh so that your uh, spawner can spawn your enemies. So that is boss spawner. Moving on to the next one. One time spawner. What is one time spawner? One time spawner we get here is all the spawning you want to do but all at once. So in here you can just add in multiple AIs, but you need to be careful that you cannot as this is a map, you cannot multiple spawn, like you cannot create multiple of same thing. So once you have a single type, okay, let's say this, you need to add in some value like 51, then you can create the other one. Okay, so this is a map. So as you can see the error, so add in the other one. I want this one. Okay, so yeah, similarly you can add all your desired agents, and once you have collided with this will spawn. It is that simple. Okay, now moving on from one time spawner. So we come to the wave spawner. Now in wave spawner, you have number of waves. So this is basically the number of waves you want to spawn. Okay, number of waves you want to fight. So let's say this is 5 waves. Okay, now you have created this various arrays. Okay, so time between waves. Time between waves is basically the time you want between each and every wave. So let's say 5, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 times. Okay, we'll go one by one with each one. Okay. So these timings are basically, let's say if you have cleared the first wave, then how long do you want to wait till the second wave starts? Okay, so this is basically a cooldown timing. So after the first wave has been done, let's say you want to wait for 1 second, then wait for 1 second, and then the next wave will spawn. So let's say you have fought the second wave. Okay, now you have fought the second wave and you want to wait for 5 seconds till the third wave is spawned. So 5, then again if you want 2, and like so on and so forth till the last one. All right, so that's how this variable is, time between waves. Now enemies to spawn in single wave. So this is basically where you select which enemies do you want to fight in each and every single wave. So this is first wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave, and fifth wave. Okay, because here we have 5 waves. Then expand this. Now you have enemies to spawn wave. Okay, enemies to spawn in this first wave, enemies to spawn in this second wave. All right, so open this, and let's say we only want to spawn this one type of enemy. Okay, enemy 1, and we want to fight like 5 enemies. All right, so it will spawn 5 enemies. Okay, 5 instances of this type. Let's say we want one more. Okay, we can add one more and have 2 instances of this. So in total it will spawn 7 enemies for this particular wave, and once all 7 of them are dead, then it will go back and check how long do you have to wait after the first one is done. Okay, first wave is done, it will wait for those particular seconds and then spawn in the second one. So second we have nothing, so let's add something. Okay, so we have one more here. We can again add this first one and add this one. All right, or maybe not add this, have only one type of enemy, and just this can be 10 instances. Okay, so on and so forth. You can add all these different types of enemies inside each and every one of them. So enemies to spawn in every single wave, that is this. Okay, so current wave agents alive, this is again the agents that are alive currently. You don't need to touch this. This is just for this is public, just if you want to take the reference somewhere. All right, spawn radius again similar. So this wave system is really handy, you can use that very well. Let's move on to the next one, sequential spawn. So where is my sequential spawn? This one, sequential spawn. Yeah, so in sequential spawn integer, this is basically, this variable is the index of which enemy to spawn from the array. Okay, so basically you can create this array. Okay, all the enemies that you want to spawn, and this will just get that. You don't need to touch this. Okay, this is just for the calculation, but if you want the reference of this somewhere else, then you can touch this. Okay, so this is basically just for calculation, but if you want to have this reference, in that case I've made this public. Okay, sequential enemy type, these are basically the enemy types that you want to spawn one after the other. Okay, now we create more. Okay, let's say we want to spawn all these 5 types of enemies, 1 2 3 4 one more 5. Okay, but let's say I want to spawn one more again. Okay, like this one again. Okay, or maybe I want to change this one, instead of 3 I want it to be 1 again. Okay, so this is like a very sequential spawning. So where do you want where can you use this? You can use this in places like where you want to teach combat to your player. Okay, and also something similar is present in Doom Eternal, where there is a big fight where each and every class of enemy spawns, but they don't spawn all together, they spawn one after the other. Okay, so you can create it like this. Okay, sequential spawn delay. So sequential spawn delay is basically the delays connected to this. Okay, so once this is spawned, how long do you want to wait till this second one is spawned? Okay, it is like that. So let's say we have spawned this one, and once this is spawned, you want to wait for 5 seconds until the second index is spawned. Okay, so we'll wait for 5 seconds. Okay, and then if you want 10 seconds, then we'll wait for 10 seconds. But the beauty of the system is not just in sequential, but in each and every type of spawner that I have, is that once, let's say it is 10 seconds, and if you kill this guy within 2 seconds, okay, then you don't need to wait for the rest of 8 seconds. The system will cancel this delay, okay, and move on to the next one, and then use the other delay. All right, so it is really handy in that case. Okay, so you don't need to your player won't be actually waiting and wondering what is happening. So I have designed the system in a way that the combat really stays active. All right. So in that case way, you can add the delay for each and every one. Okay. So spawn sequential spawn radius. So this is again the radius. Okay, this is present in each and every one. Okay, and this corresponds to its own sequential own category. Okay, so let's say we have the sequential. Okay, and then we have this timer loop. So not timer loop, let's say a wave spawn. Okay, wave spawn radius. Okay, so these two. So let's say if you want to spawn the wave with this much, but the single you only want to spawn in the 10 centimeter radius. Okay, so you can do that as well. And remember, this system works all together. So you can have this working along with this radius as well. So yeah, now we go inside the timer loop. So in the timer loop, here you have total spawn time. Okay, so firstly I'll explain how the time loop works. So firstly, once you have collided with this, it will start this total spawn time. So basically for that much amount of time, your AI will spawn with a regular interval. Okay, so total spawn time is this. Okay, delay between spawns is basically the interval. So let's say you want to spawn for 60 seconds with a delay of 2. So every 2 seconds an AI will be spawned for 60 seconds. Once 60 seconds are completed, the spawning will stop. All right, then we go to timer loop spawn object class. So right here you don't have an array, you only have a single AI that you can spawn. Okay, but if you want multiple of them, you can just multiply this spawner. Okay, multiply this spawner and have different values. The reason I have not added an array is because let's say if you wanted to spawn this one with 2 seconds interval and the second one with a 5-second interval. Okay, so it will really get messy in one single system. That's why I have not created that, but duplicating the combat spawner is much simpler. So that's why I have went with that solution. Okay, so yeah, spawn till player dead. Okay, so this is basically a boolean, okay, which says, do you want to keep spawning till your player is dead, or do you want to use this total spawn time? So if you have checked this, okay, set this to, then this total spawn time will not work. Okay, so this delay between spawns will work, but this total spawn time won't work. Okay, it will keep on spawning till your player is dead. And by dead, there are two options. Either you can take the reference of this and call this reference from somewhere else. Okay, set this from somewhere else and it will work. Or right now how it works, if you check this true, is actor destroy. Okay, destroy actor needs to be called inside the player, only then this will get triggered. Okay, so be careful of that. The system is open for modifications. You can go in, read all of the code and modify it for yourself. Okay, second, spawn limit. Spawn limit is basically if you don't want to overload the computer, okay, overload the system. Let's say you have some limitations for your system, you are using it for mobile or console where you have a limited amount of AIs that you can spawn. Okay, over that, and the game will crash. Okay, so for that reason the spawn limit is set. Okay, so yeah, that is your spawn limit. Player dead auto reference. So if you have clicked this spawn till player dead, okay, so if you have checked this, this will work. Okay, but if you want okay, once you have checked this, this will work, but now you have an option. Do you want to call this reference yourself manually, or do you want the system to take care of it? Okay, and do that calling the system when your actor is dead. Okay, when your player actor is dead. So if you want to do that, click this auto dead reference as well. Okay, and then you can have it. And lastly, it is spawn radius time loop. All right, which I have explained you. Now we go to the last one, which is battle spawner. This is very interesting one. Okay, so where is it? Here it is. Battle spawner. So firstly, in battle spawner, we can add multiple actors. Okay, so let's say I want this one, and this one to spawn. Okay, and how many of them? Let's say I want to spawn 5 of these, 2 of this, and 10 of these. Okay, so once you have this, now you have the flexibility for the delay. So how does the system work? Once you have added which actors you want, okay, and how many instances of them you want the player to fight, the system will randomly select each one. Okay, will randomly select one of these items and then spawn it. But the delay between each spawn is connected to each one of these agents. Okay, so let's say this one is your heavy boss type enemy. Okay, like heavy tank. This one is your mediocre enemy, and this one is your light enemy. Okay, so let's say what you want is once you have spawned your what do you call it, yeah, boss type, like the big enemy. Okay, once you have spawned your tank type enemy, you don't want to spawn any other enemy for the next 10 seconds. Okay, if you want that, then you can add 10 seconds here. So right here is your mediocre enemy. So if you want the time between time taken after your mediocre enemy is spawned to be like, let's say 3 seconds, so it will wait for 3 seconds before checking to spawn any other enemy. Okay, so again here it can be, let's say 2 seconds. We want the easy level enemy to spawn every 2 seconds and fill in the fighting arena. Okay, so in that case we can do this. So that's how the system works. Lastly in this system is minimum battle agents alive. So the minimum number of agents you want to be alive at a time. So let's say you have this. Okay, we have 10 seconds here. Okay, so let's say this one has been spawned already. Okay, and this is the only one being alive, right? So once this is dead, you, let's say you kill it in 2 to 3 seconds, then you will have to wait for 8 or 9 seconds, 8 to 7 seconds, right? You don't want to do that. So that's why we have this minimum battle agents alive. So once the number of agents alive, agents, by agents I mean the enemies alive in this arena are less than this number, then it will ignore the spawn delay and spawn the next one. Okay, but it won't go into a loop. It will just spawn the next one, a random one, and get the corresponding delay, and then continue the spawning. Okay, so that's why you have that minimum agents alive, and again spawn radius battle. So that's it, I guess. That's the system for spawning. Okay, so that's my spawning system, and that's how you use it. So be mindful that each and every one of them can be used in tandem. So if you think that there is some particular type of spawning that is not in this spawner, you can actually mismatch and create that type of spawning. Okay, you can create the boss spawn with the wave spawn and have the boss spawn with the minions while you are fighting waves of enemies. Okay, so you can do that as well. Or you can have the boss fight, but along with the boss you are sequentially fighting an array of enemies which are thrown your way. All right, so the system is really flexible in that way. And yeah, that is how you use the system. And thank you for getting the system, and hope you have happy game development.